Hey guys, Anthony here with another At the Table review. As you might guess, we have a lot of game reviews coming up. We picked up a lot of games at Gen Con, played a lot of good stuff, had a few things coming after the fact, Essence in like a month. So there's a lot of game reviews coming down the pike. Why aren't they up yet? Well, you get home from cons, you're maybe a little sick, so running a little bit behind. But we're going to have a lot of good stuff for you in the coming weeks, so make sure you stay tuned. First on that list, though, is a game that I was actually really excited about. And it's not the kind of game I typically like, although recently I've been weirdly attracted to these real-time games, and that is Paramedics Clear. This is a new game from Smirk and Dagger Games, and this is a company we've been interacting with for a long time. Kurt's a great guy. We always stop by and check out their newest games. For some reason, these take-that games with a little bit of a twist in them really capture my attention. I don't know what it is. I don't typically like take-that, but it's just the way Kurt does it, the way those guys put the games together. It's like, you know it's going to be like that, so there's nothing to get mad about. So Paramedics Clear. This is a game about saving people, as you might guess. So you look at the box, you hear it's about paramedics. Anything really rescue-related tends to be cooperative. You assume it's cooperative. I assumed it was cooperative when I first met with Kurt on this at Origins. It's not cooperative. It is like a light take-that. And to be honest, the take-that element, it's just the one thing you're going to do to each other. And most of the time, the decision will be made for you based on what you need, but it is an interesting element. So I'm going to walk you through the game. We're going to take a look at it. I'm going to show you how the game plays. You get to hear the awesome siren, the alarm that goes off on the timer. And then we'll come back and I'll tell you what I think of the game and whether it's something you should track down and pick up. Alright guys, so what we're going to do right now is I'm going to walk you through real quick and show you how Paramedics Clear plays. This is everything you're going to have set up in front of you, and so everybody's going to have their own player mat, like you can see here, along with their own sets of tokens and their own patients to take care of. This in the middle here is a shared space. This is the deck of supply cards, this is the deck of patient cards, and then we have our own hand of cards right there. Alright, so real quick, this is how the game plays, and it is very, very simple. There are a couple of nuances. We're not going to go super in-depth on this, and it's not the kind of game that I can easily walk you through in real time just because of the way it plays, but I'll give you a good sense here. So, first things first, we have the app. The app here is really just a glorified timer. This is designed to simulate the 3 different shift lengths. So you have 1 minute, 45 seconds, and 30 seconds. You play the game in 3 shifts. And each shift, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be going through and going through this entire supply deck. So how do you go through the supply deck? When it's your turn, the person before you is going to hit the timer right there. And then you're going to press to start. And it makes all sorts of noise, which is a lot of fun. I'm going to turn this down a little bit so you can hear what I'm saying. And it does that the whole time you're playing. So, no stress, nothing at all. I'm going to go ahead and pause it just so this doesn't overwhelm what I'm trying to say. But it does that for the whole shift while you're trying to make your decisions. It's not easy to do. As far as what those decisions entail, what you're trying to do is you're trying to make the different items that you need to treat each of these patients. So you're going to have 2 patients, one on the front gurney, one on the back, and each of them has multiple medical needs. So here you can see that this particular patient has, they need blood, oxygen, and bandages. Now, how do we get them those things? At the beginning of the game, you're going to start with 2 of these items already made. So let's say that we started with blood and oxygen. As you can see here, there's only 2 of blood, medicine, oxygen, and this other medicine available. And then there's 4 bandages and 4 casts. So the first 4 are a little bit harder to get. The last 4 are a little bit easier. Or the last 2 are a little bit easier. So what you're trying to do is, you can pull from these 2. Those are your backup. But for everything else, you need to come up with the cards. So you can see what this means is, for blood, you need 2 green cards. For the needle, you need 2 red. For the oxygen, you need yellow and an orange. For the medicine, you need a blue. For the bandage, you need an orange or a purple. And for the cast, you need a yellow or a purple. Every one of these is different. There are 4 of them, or 5 of them. I'm sorry, 4 of them. I can count. And they're all different. They all have a different combination. So it's going to be, everybody's going to have a different pattern they're going for, just to make sure that's nice and balanced out. And so what you're trying to do is get the cards you need into your hand. So how do you get the cards you need into your hand? Well, when you start, you just get them randomly. So this is what I start with. But let's say I'm like, oh, I really need a medicine, which in this case I don't, but let's just say I do. I can take one of these cards, throw it back, and take the blue. So that's an open field, and you just do this as many times as you want. You're just like, all right, I need this, and you just go back and forth. This can become a big chaotic mess. It's fine, you'll clean it up later. And then you do everything you need to do until you get the cards you need. So then you take this, you discard that, you take the medicine you need, right? And then you put it over here. You can only hold 2 at a time, so if we did that, we'd move this down here. Now, what's the goal here? The goal is to get people to the hospital. To get them to the hospital, you need all of the things listed on the card. So in this case, I need a medicine, an oxygen, and a bandage. I only have right now the medicine and the oxygen. For the bandage, I need an orange or a purple. I have the purple, so I can take the bandage, put it on my patient. They're now stable. Here's what we do. When you get to this point, you take these things, you dump them off, you move this over, you draw 2, you pick one real fast, you put it down, you pass this one to the next person who has an opening, and then you put it down like that. They now have a patient there. They don't know what it is. So at the beginning of their turn, when this timer starts, they're going to flip that over, and that is the first time they will see it, which makes for even more stress. So you can imagine it gets kind of chaotic as you move along. Now let's say you don't have the stuff you need to actually treat these things, right? So you look and you say, oh, I don't have all the things I need. I don't want them to die, though. If you don't put anything on the card at all, they go to the morgue at the end of your turn. And that's, you can see here, the heart is your points that you get if you get them into the hospital. The morgue is the points you lose if you don't get them into the hospital. So the easier ones, board game injury, for example, where you need 2 bandages, if you can't treat that, that's -3 points. The little bit harder ones, you lose fewer points. Their chances weren't quite as good to start with. So how do you stabilize them then? Where you know, okay, I don't have enough, I can't get this, I only have 1 bandage, let's say. Let's say I'm all out of cards, I don't have anything else. I can take 1 bandage, turn it a little bit to the side, take this 1 medicine, turn a little bit to the side. Those are both now stabilized or sustained. And what that means is they don't go to the morgue this round. They are okay, you buy yourself a little time until the next time it's your turn. Now, because the cards are limited, you have 5 in your hand at the beginning of every round and 5 there to play with. There are a lot of rounds where you're not going to be able to do everything. You need to manipulate your hand and get to the point where you can. Sometimes you can't do anything at all. And if that's the case, you might end up having to, it might just happen, and that's part of the game. It happens surprisingly rarely, and there are a few ways you can manipulate that. You can see, for example, that you can upgrade to get a medevac. Upgrades, basically how that works is you just, over the course of the game, you drop cards down here, and once you have enough to pay for an upgrade, you turn them in, and you get the thing. So you can get extra cabinets to backlog medicine you need. You can upgrade for a medevac, which is an automatic, goes to the hospital. You can increase your hand size by 1, which is very powerful. All these things make the game a little bit easier. All right. Now, one more thing here that is important. The critical patients. Now, critical patients are tricky in a couple of ways. They cannot be sustained, and they might have, higher than, they might need a lot of medicine because they've been really hurt. They don't tend to be a lot of negative points, and they tend to be a lot of positive because the expectation is maybe you won't have those things that you need. But if one of these comes up, and that's down there, right? And it comes up to your turn and you're like, I don't have any of this stuff, and you don't have a medevac available, they're just gone. You can't sustain them. You have to treat them in full when that turn happens. So a lot of people are going to have negative points, as you can see. There's a little bit of luck of the draw there, but at the same time, it's a little bit of take that, because you can hand this, like let's say you draw this, and this card's a little bit easier, needs less stuff, but it's fewer negative points, and it's critical. So you're like, all right, I'm going to keep this one, pass this one along. That person's in bad shape now. And you can look around the table and see what stuff people have in their cabinets before you pass it on, making it even more difficult. And that's basically it. So you go through this whole supply deck. The first time, 60-second shifts. Second time, 45. Third time, 30 seconds. The whole game takes less than a half an hour because you really can't drag it out more than that because of the timer. Now, there is an emergency pause button here. Doorbell rings, someone brings food, the phone rings, someone has to go to the bathroom, whatever it is. But generally speaking, the game goes pretty fast. All right, so that's how you play Paramedics Clear. Let's hop back and see what we think. All right, guys, so Paramedics Clear. So now that you've had a chance to take a look at the game, what do we think? So right out of the box, we have a game that is unique in a lot of ways. It is real time, and it uses an app, but the app is really just a timer. You could use any old timer for that. And it is very thematic. I'm not an EMT, but my wife has been in the past, and the feel here is very much, you gotta get this done quick. You gotta do it fast. If you make a mistake, if you screw up, maybe the patient doesn't survive, maybe they just get stabilized, maybe there's nothing you can do. There'll be situations in which there's nothing you can do. And frequently in a game, if there's nothing you can do, I get a little frustrated. Trick-taking games, for example, drive me crazy. I don't like trick-taking games because they're so frequently just, you sit there, you don't do anything, you just skip a turn, don't do anything. Trick-taking games that take care of that, great. The rest, bad. This game has that, but it works because it's thematic. If you get a patient and you don't have any of the things you need to do it, and none of the cards are there, that patient might die. And that's part of the game, but it's also part of what it means to be an EMT. It captures that really well. And it makes you a little uncomfortable, but being honest, that's what it is. So I really enjoyed this. It's fast. A typical game takes anywhere between 15 and 30 minutes to play because there can't be AP. It's accessible. It only takes 5 minutes to teach. It's not for everybody. There's been at least a couple people in each group I've played it with who just they didn't enjoy the real-time element. They felt overwhelmed. They didn't think they could get everything done they needed to get done. They got mad. These things are going to happen. So make sure you know your group before you play this game because it's the kind of thing, if you're playing with heavy Euro gamers who like to take their time and they don't like games like Fuse, then they're not going to like this game either. So you really need to make sure that it's going to be a good fit for everybody. But from everything, from the feel of the game to the theme of the game, the artwork is pretty basic, but I think that works because it depersonalizes it a little bit. The one criticism I'm going to give to the game is that the cards are interesting. A lot of them are funny, like board game injury or took a knife to a gunfight, and those are funny. And if every card had been that, it would have been great, and it lightens the mood just a little bit, and it's fun to see what comes up. Not all of them are like that. Some of them are legitimate injuries, people who got shot or stabbed or accidentally put a drill press through their hand. Some of these things aren't actually funny. So it's a weird mix where the tone is a little funny. The game moves so fast, you're not really going to pay attention to that while you're playing. It's more of a thing like when you're looking through the cards before and after the game, you're like, okay. But overall, that aside, if it's the kind of game that you're comfortable playing, you like real-time games, you like being challenged, you like the chaos of a game like this, it's really good. And I'm going to give this one a buy. Now, is this the type of game I would typically give a buy? Not really. And I'm being totally honest here. I don't generally like this type of game. And there's been a few real-time games lately that I did like and I did give good recommendations to. But this one in particular, with the take that element, I don't know that I would typically enjoy it. But because of the way the theme is integrated, because of the length of the game, and because there are a lot of interesting decisions to be made, and while yes, sometimes you can't do what you need to do, but most of the time you can, I think it just works. So it's the kind of game that fills a hole in the collection. I don't think there's anything really quite like it. It is unique. It covers a theme that there are not many games out there that do. And I think that the people who would appreciate that and the people who like this type of quick, think on your feet type of game are really going to have a lot of fun with it. So if that sounds good to you, check out Paramedics Clear. This is a buy from us, BGA. And that's going to be everything for this At the Table review. All right, guys, so until next time, enjoy.